Brilliant. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Let's Go Zero webinar on focusing on how to get support in creating a school's climate action plan. And I'm so glad so many of you could join us here today. We will be recording the session. So for those of you who'd like to share this with other colleagues or other schools, please do. I'll be sending around a follow-up email after the recording in the next few days, which will have the recording on YouTube and on our website where you can share it. I'm going to kick off and jump right in just in the interest of time. We've got some absolute brilliant speakers for you here today. Jelly, could we go to the next slide, please?
Yes. 1 second. There we go.
Brilliant, thank you. So as you can see on our screen of little videos, I'm joined by my colleagues Jelly and Oki, who are both climate action advisors. Jelly for the Midlands and Oki for London. They both have an absolute breadth of experience. Jelly has more than 10 years experience in the sustainability sector, and Oki comes from a secondary school teaching background. They are now both climate action advisors who offer free support for all schools across the UK, but I will let them tell you more about that shortly. We then will be joined by Richard Tomlinson, head teacher at East Bridgeford St Peter's Academy, and Sam Luca, the chief operating officer at Trinitas Academy Trust. And they will both be talking about their own experiences in embedding sustainability in their schools or trusts, and how they've worked with a climate action advisor. We will have plenty of time to ask questions, so please do drop questions in the Q&A box or the chat box. If we don't get through all the questions, I will send up follow-up emails, or you can get in touch with us directly at letsgozero@ashton.org, and we'll be more than happy to follow up on any questions or requests for support or help. But without further ado, I will love to hand over to Jelly and Oki.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jelly, and Oki and I are part of Let's Go Zero, which is a national campaign uniting teachers, pupils, parents, and their schools as they all work together to be zero carbon by 2030. And that's a massive challenge. So through this campaign, we are also calling for much needed government support and funding to enable the schools to decarbonize. And we want to amplify the voices of schools and ensure that students and staff are heard when policy decisions are being made at a government level. And at the campaign, we already have over 3,500 schools who have signed up, and that represent over 1.5 million students who are actively supporting climate action. So if you're part of the senior management team in your school and want to show your intent and ambition to get to zero carbon, then please do take a couple of minutes to sign up via the link on our QR code here on the screen. Doing that way, you'll be joining a growing movement, proving to central government that schools do want this. And there's no obligation to do anything specific, but signing up means you are joining with thousands of voices to help us show that there is a will to make this change happen. So with Let's Go Zero, we work collaboratively with others. We know that we can't do this work on our own. It's just not possible. So our partners are also supporting schools on sustainability and decarbonization, and together we are working to drive change and spark climate action in schools and communities across the country. So you can see all this, the logos of different organizations that we work with, and they've all been amazing to really work with in this coalition and campaign. The Department for Education, Sustainability and Climate Change Strategy that was launched in 2022 has set an ambitious vision that the UK education sector would be a world leader in sustainability and climate change by 2030. And the strategy has set out a number of goals between now and 2030. And this includes an expectation that by 2025, all education settings will have nominated a sustainability lead and have put a climate action plan in place. So those are the two expectations. And so the Climate Action Advisors Project is here to kind of really support schools on that. So we are a network of experts providing bespoke advice and support to schools to help them accelerate their journey to become zero carbon. We are a team now of 32 climate action advisors. We cover all regions of England, and we work with schools to help them meet the DFE expectations of having a climate action plan and sustainability lead by 2025. And these are the types of support that we as climate action advisors can provide to schools. Whilst we work with schools on meeting those DFE requirements, it's also important that the whole education setting is engaged so that planning becomes action. And we do this by ensuring that our advice and support are bespoke to the school's needs and goals for decarbonization and sustainability. And that includes signposting to local and national funding schemes and any relevant resources to support the implementation of their action plans. We also provide remote or in-person sustainability audits. We work hand in hand with site staff, and we also engage students on taking action. And through regular webinar sessions like today, like what we're having today, we bring schools together with the latest information and showcase good practice for others to learn from as well. So for this afternoon session, we will be spotlighting on building a climate action plan. When we do this, we help schools in understanding where they are at in their journey, what their priorities and also the barriers to change are, and what actions they could take to start on that. We provide resources and also further support to help the schools implement the plan, and to help embed this plan in their setting. We'll link it with the school's improvement plan and also the inspection criteria, for example, SIAMs for Church of England schools and also Ofsted. And a top action that we often recommend doing and also support schools with is measuring their carbon footprint. And we use a free tool called Count Your Carbon tool. So Count Your Carbon is a free online tool from our partner, which is the Keep Britain Tidy. They're the creator of the Eco Schools program. And this tool is mainly to help the schools calculate a school's carbon footprint. It's very quick and it's easy to register, and the tool is really straightforward to use. The most time-consuming aspect is collecting the data. So to use a tool, you will need the last 12 months of information on various elements. That would be your utilities, so that's your fuel, electricity, water, also waste, purchases, number of meals served, your staff and student commutes and trips. What else is on there? Also, whether your school requires a uniform. And we have put together a data collection guide to help with this process. And once the data is input into the tool, you can then see your school's total carbon footprints. That will kind of calculate that automatically for you. It's really important that we, like for us, to do this, it's really important before we can develop a climate action plan, because it helps you to have a baseline to work from. And it helps you to understand the biggest emission areas to tackle. And then from there, you can set targets for emissions reduction. The good practice for this is really to use the tool once a year to monitor your progress. And then you can also help decide what will go into your climate action plan for the year. And if you sign up for our free support, we can send out the data collection guide and provide additional support around this, and also on deciding what actions to prioritize putting into your climate action plan. I will now hand over to my fellow climate action advisor, Oki Stott. Oki.
Hello everyone, really good to have you all here. So Jelly's outlined a kind of overview then of how climate action advisors work and begun to talk about the climate action plan. So what I'm going to do is just talk in a little bit more detail about what that climate action plan looks like and the kind of things that we might cover in it. So it should typically cover the 4 areas that you can see there on the slide. And those are the areas that the DFE is asking the schools to focus on in its strategy. So just to quickly go through those areas, the first there is decarbonisation and energy efficiency. And that broadly speaking is all those actions which cut the carbon emissions of the schools. And often the good thing again about those kind of actions is that they may also have a kind of cost cutting effect on schools. You may be able to save money as well as carbon by taking those kind of actions. The next area that the DfE is really wanting schools to focus on is climate education, green skills and careers. And that, broadly speaking, is embedding sustainability in your curriculums, in your teaching, as well as the careers advice and actually the culture of your schools or trusts as well. The third area, again in the DfE strategy, is biodiversity and green infrastructure. And that is looking partly at the school estate and how we can make that more biodiverse, but also thinking about how we can give students more opportunities to engage with the natural world. And then finally, perhaps less talked about, is the adaptation and resilience area, which is really thinking about how schools can respond to the changes that will happen as a result of climate change. So things like thinking about reducing the risk of flooding, and taking action on, you know, how to deal with hotter weather and so on. Okay, thanks, Jelly. Next slide, please. I'm really sorry about how small this slide is. You don't need to be able to see the detail, but I just wanted to talk through a little bit about how we then, as Let's Go Zero, approach our climate action plans. So as you can see, we use those DfE areas that I've just talked through, and we just break them down a little bit more. So for example, in the decarbonisation kind of area, we like to look at some kind of pillars within that. So we look at energy, we look at transport, food, procurement and waste, because all of those things are linked into the possibilities that a school has to decarbonise. And again, with the other areas, we also break them down a little bit so that we can find the best actions for schools to take on those different pillars. And so under those pillars, we then work with schools to give bespoke advice about specific actions that they can take that will help you as schools take action on the climate. So if, for example, we looked at transport, we might suggest that schools run an active travel campaign, or and that might link to the carbon baseline that we've done. So if it's identified in that carbon baseline that a lot of the carbon emissions of a school is related to travel, we might really focus on that. So it's bespoke to your particular setting. Or perhaps if we're focusing on energy, we might suggest for schools to run an energy saving campaign, the switch off fortnight. I know Sam Luca is going to do that in his trust, and he'll talk to you about that later. Or things like switching to LED lighting if that hasn't already happened. But we have lots and lots of different actions, and we really try to make them as relevant and context specific as we can for the schools and settings that we're working with. And we also, as Jelly mentioned before, really like to link the actions up with school improvement sort of priorities and frameworks that the schools are working with, like Ofsted framework or SIAM's framework, so that the actions that we're taking are not tick box, they're embedded within the rest of the school's kind of strategies, and hopefully that will help kind of drive them forward and support you guys in taking action on the climate. Thanks. Next slide, please. So once we've pulled together our climate action plans, we don't just kind of leave it there. We support schools to kind of put those actions into place. So we do that in lots of different ways, but one of the ways we do that is through our resources, the Let's Go guides, which link closely to some of the actions we've suggested. So for example, if we've suggested that a school might really benefit from trying to cut food waste, we would give them the Let's Go guide, Let's Cut Food Waste, Let's Go guide, and that gives clear information on how to take action, and it also signposts schools to relevant organisations and funding. As you know from previously, we're working with a lot of coalition partners, so we can signpost the best organisations for you. Thanks, Jelly. And then almost finished there, but I just wanted to talk you through the kind of process that we go through as climate action advisors when we're creating these climate action plans. And I would say that this process is often kind of a little bit different, is tailored to a school's particular needs. But broadly speaking, when a school needs help or wants support from Let's Go Zero, you simply request support through our website, and I'll show you a link in a minute. And then you get designated a climate action advisor, who is someone who is working with schools in your area, like myself or like Jelly. We then work with the sustainability lead, or the people taking forward sustainability in the school, and you can see 4 there. We gather as much information about the school as we can, and we do that online through meetings, but we also might come and do a site visit in order to gather that information. We would then help the school sort of calculate your carbon emissions, your baseline, as Jelly's talked about. And then once we've got all that information, we would create a sustainability report, which we'd kind of present back to you. And what that would have is a whole load of suggestions and actions that a school could take in order to sort of take action on climate change. And we would work together with you to then select which of those you wanted to take forward and you thought were relevant and useful to you. And we'd put them into a climate action plan for you. And as I said before, we don't just leave it there. We would then help you put that climate action plan into action and help you measure your progress against those targets. And so we would check in regularly, perhaps once a term, in order to provide additional support for you once we'd pulled that climate action plan together. And then hopefully we would celebrate and communicate all that success that you'd had, all the good things that you've done. And if needed the following year, we could repeat that process. So we see this as an ongoing support that we offer, really to help schools take as much climate action as possible, with a strong awareness. And having been a teacher myself, I really understand, with a strong awareness of the time constraints that schools are under and the capacity constraints. Thanks, Jelly. Next slide, please. So I'm gonna kind of leave it there, and just to say that we've got 2 brilliant other speakers who are gonna really are the people who actually put these things into action. We've got Richard Tomlinson, I hope, from the East Bridgeford St Peter's Academy, and Trinitas Academy Trust, Sam Luca, who have been working closely with climate action advisors, and they're going to talk us through the amazing things that they have been doing, and also how we've been working together. And you can see some of those ideas on the slide, but I don't want to preempt, because I know that they've got lots of interesting things to say. So the last slide is just the way that you can sign up for support if you would like to, and I think Suzanne's also put that in the chat so that you can access that support, and then hopefully we can work together to take lots of climate action. Thanks.
So brilliant. Thank you so much, Jelly and Oki. Really, really great presentation. I mean, I work with you both and I feel like I've learned even more already today. So I hope you've all found it really useful, and please do get in touch. Our support is completely free. We'd love to help you start your journey, continue your journey, find that next step to reduce your emissions in the school, engaging your students and staff body as well. So I think I've seen Richard has joined the call. Richard, are you there at all?
Yes, I am. Hello, Joe.
Yes. Hi, Richard. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it was a bit hectic with joining links and whatnot, but I'm very, very happy you're here.
I got there in the end. Please tell me you've got the slides. Have you got
Yes,
the slides?
we do.
Oh,
So we'll go right onto your slide deck now. But just for everyone in the audience, just to introduce you to Richard, he's the head teacher at East Bridgeford and St Peter's Academy. And they're doing absolutely wonderful stuff. So I'll hand over to you, Richard. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Right, well, I hope you'll get something out of this. I sort of really wants to give you an update on the engagement that we've had with Let's Go Zero so far with Joe and Jelly. Yeah, absolutely echoing what you're saying about getting alongside you. It's fantastic. And I hope once we get to the end to give you some ideas, the practical ideas of what you may be already implementing or what you might implement already. So that's sort of near the end, but we'll just go through really, but champion and echoing everything that you've done so far. So sort of with slide 1, it just talks basically about our school. We are sort of nearly 300 children, sort of preschool and primary school. As you can see from the slide picture there, we are a take care school, so we take care of ourselves, each other, the world, and with our work. So this fits in very nicely with our values about taking care of our world, and of course be able to take care of everything around us. So it fits in. So really, when we're talking about the curriculum, it's not about sort of bolting this on, it's about embedding in what we're already doing. It's not about creating something new. It's not a massive workload at all. In fact, it's really helped to streamline what we're doing. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the meetings, staff meetings, the engagement that we've had with staff have been really, really on board. And it said it's really helped them, especially with the highlighted sections. You can sort of shows you where to sort of slip and engage into what we're already doing. So it's not about extra workload. It is about sort of streamlining and focusing on what's best for us. So things I've been asked to talk about, sort of like the site visit and to conduct the audit. They've been absolutely brilliant. So again, it was having the business manager, having the site manager, the kitchen cook, the curriculum lead, myself, the children involved in preparing for this visit. And it was really good to sort of focus in and sort of reflect on what we do already. And I don't think any of us were expecting what came out of it. So it really has been quite eye-opening. Like uniform being one of the main things, which we just didn't think about. We thought our school trips would have been quite sort of high energy, but they were sort of one of the best versions that we've got. So it sort of really sort of made you took a step back on what we're doing already. So having everybody prepared worked really well. Let's just move on to the next slide for me. I think the carbon count that we did was pretty interesting because it's about sharing that and giving you a benchmark. So it was about sharing with our school community, with our children, obviously, with the parents, with the governors, and sort of putting a regular item in our newsletter as well. So there's a section in there. Mrs. Plum on that picture staring back at me. Aptly named for our kitchen cook, Mrs. Plum. So I'll talk about the menu in a moment, but it really was about having a mission to decrease what we already do. And I think the message that came from Joe and Jelly was it almost doesn't matter how much you decrease, but actually if everybody's on board, that small decrease in little areas becomes a habit, becomes part of the culture, becomes part of the ethos. And it's not about doing tokenistic things. It's about doing things that become habit, become normal. And even things that I do at home, it has that knock-on effect as well. So it's really made the children think it really isn't just about turning lights off, which a lot of maybe schools think it is. So just moving on, one of the things we do with our children here is they do go around and they present to the rest of the children through assembly. And I've got the children sort of in the habit of doing what I call a shock, inform, persuade. So we sort of shock everybody into sort of like the facts and the figures, and this is what could happen, not to scare them, but to shock them. And then we sort of inform them, what could you do about it? And then it's persuade, actually, how can we persuade to change our habits of a lifestyle? How can we adapt our menu to make it sort of more friendly that way? So yeah, the shock, inform, persuade sort of works really, really well. Just moving on to the next slide. Look, I don't think they quite tee up with everything, but the action plan that we have in place, all I can say is really once it's in place from the audit, it really is just to share. I put a section on our website now called Climate and Sustainability, which is in the children's section. And again, it's signposting that to the parents and coming back to it and highlight it and drop it into sort of assemblies on, say, where we're up to now, what we've done this week. So it just becomes a habit of what we're doing. It does take everybody. You talk about having a climate lead. It's me, but it is everybody. So I'm just looking at sort of lots of posters without going through them all, what we've done in our sort of staff meetings. So this is what the staff did, and they come up with just different ideas about sort of like, looking at the Pro Veg Award, looking at biodiversity, sort of switching off fortnight, transport. So really getting the staff on board and sharing that with them. And I'm hoping to put a big display up in the children's work and go on. So it's always in the face. And when sort of parents come in, it's just that reminder of what we're doing. So share and engage and make it fun as well, but make it manageable. And it just becomes part of the everyday thing. I think one of the things that came from our staff meetings was about the use of emails. And I don't know if you know this, Joe and Jelly, but I think since you've come in to do that, there just seems to be less emails flying around. People are talking more. It's almost, rather than doing that. So that's a great thing, because emails, which if you didn't know is a massive carbon footprint thing, so they are vastly reduced. And for any sort of head teachers out there, your subject access requests, if you get any of those, you've got nothing to sort of send, because you're having conversations. So the workload point of view, it does have knock-on effects to other things as well. Where are we? So on our website, again, I've put a section on there. Where are we? Actions that are underway. I'm sure you're interested in this one. I want to move on to the next slide as well. So again, engaging the children. This is part of our CPD. You can see some of the posters there that we did. Having fun exercises, having ownership of what we're doing in there. But again, when we had the second session, when Joe came in, it was looking at sort of all the different things. I think the sections that highlighted different keywords that are highlighted. So when staff are going through their planning and curriculum, when they stand out, it's like, right, there we go. That's what we do. So the work is there for you. But I think I can't really explain that until the people are in your school and you're having those sessions, but absolutely worthwhile. I'm not going on for much longer, but I do have to get away in a moment. But just to give you an idea of actions and next steps, you're wondering probably why there's a strange wardrobe fit in there. It was actually now finished, so that was in part way through. But just to give you some idea of the things that we have put in place before Let's Go Zero came on board, during, and then sort of focusing. And so no particular order. You know, the energy efficiency money that you get from the government. We had an audit done. One of the first things we did with that, rather than, I know a lot of heads were saying, oh, go and spend it on laptops, go and spend it on this. Actually, we had an audit. What can we do? So it was like the governors involved, like, what can we do? So we had a big audit, and that resulted in having some solar blind transfers put in on the windows. So we have 3 classrooms now that have got sort of like reflective solar blind transfers. So local firm in Nottingham, several £100, and over time that should reduce the solar glare. And it's sort of the classrooms that we're getting the hottest, they now seem a little bit better. But we won't know till next summer now, once they're on there. But again, it gives you that privacy as well. So we've not had to have the blinds up. LED replacement, I think we spent £6,500 on LED replacement. Our school is 160 years old this year. So you can imagine, although we've not got 160-year-old items in the school, the whole school is a mixture from sort of like a long time ago. It's from sort of 60s, 70s, and from the last decade as well. So it's about bringing things up to speed from the LED replacement point of view. Again, we had a parent who got an energy firm, so we got quotes in there. They came in. But I think one of the big things was about zonal lighting. So all our light switches now have like front, back, and so we know where they are. So rather than coming in the morning and switching all your lights on, if your board's on, you might not need any lights on, so just put the back lights on. So we're saving almost a half or a third, 2/3 of the energy within the classrooms as well. So that's been really useful. The children are being brilliant at this, because every time we have a pupil parliament meeting or a meeting, they say, we don't want to put the lights on, we want to sit near the windows and use natural light. So they're teaching us and they're educating us about using more natural light, which is great. So we did have sort of like an assembly in the dark the other day, and the children voted to have so we do a lot of things sort of by dark, which is quite fun, but not absolutely in the darkness, but sort of eyes adjusting. And I think it becomes a habit. Now, even now I've got lights on in my office, but I have them zoned, so the ones near the window don't come on. So I'm trying to do my bit as well. What else have we done? Emails. I've said about not sending too many emails. So again, talking more with the children, with the staff. So we're less reliant on sending it on email, sending it on Teams. That's definitely been noticed. Light zones labelling, I've mentioned. Hand dryers and towels, there's a big one. Hand dryers all the way. Towels we're starting to phase out. I think some of our younger children get a little bit scared by the noise, so we've talked to our company and they've reduced them to what's called the whisper model. So if you've not heard of that, that's had a big effect. It's still a little bit noisy, but the whisper model, and actually because we reviewed our contract with them, we actually saved a couple of £100 by changing to the whisper model as well. So that worked. Paper towels, we're trying to reduce those over time and phase them out completely. Even children, as they go around and they check on for lights and boards are on, it's a little bit of a name and shame, but it's a bit about playing the staff off against each other as well. They do a temperature check. So we've learned that 16 degrees in our classrooms is sort of like the best ambient temperature for learning, so the children know that. So the teacher that comes in the morning and whacks it straight up full blast, children will come and go, oh, this is not helping me learn. Well, I've told them to say that. So they turn it down, so that's helping with the temperature as well. And if you remember from, dare I say, the C word, the COVID word, you know, the little devices that we got which had temperature gauges on, we're using them so children can actually see what temperature it is in their classroom. So I've managed to find a use for them. So that's been quite useful. You can plug them into the laptop, so they're not actually plugged into energy. Our menu, I could do a whole session on menus, but the legacy I inherited over 10 years ago, the school I'm at now is the original Jamie Oliver school where school dinners sort of originated. So we've also owned our own kitchens and done fantastic things with our food. I think we've sort of entered for the Pro Veg Award. I think we've got the bronze or silver. So we're looking at sort of tweaking that. And that's just the way the things are worded, which is great. So we have a nearly 90% take up for school dinners here, which can't please everybody. But it's a 3-week menu. We have salad bar, jacket potato option. And I know Joe's trying to get me to not have the chicken and ham pie on. I just can't do it. But it is only on once every 3 weeks, Joe. So I'm standing firm on that one. But it's not about giving up everything that you enjoy and you love, is it? It's about having that fair compromise with everything. And the last thing I'll just say on there is our wardrobe. Pre-loved uniform, and there's maybe a stigma attached to sort of having second-hand uniform. Our PTFA are great. So what you see in front of you on that picture is our Narnia themed wardrobe. It's not quite finished yet. That's sort of in there. So we've got things hanging up in there. We're going to get some fur coats up in there, but actually have some pre-loved uniform in there that for those children that need those uniforms, it's a bit more of I get to go to the wardrobe and I get to get a new jumper or something like that. So it's a fantastic way of, and that was one of our biggest carbon footprints about the recycling and upcycling of uniform. So we used to have sort of 1 a year. We now have 3 a year, and it could increase. But yeah, the wardrobe is starting to fill up quite nicely with different things. No, I can't talk quite quickly, but I hope that gives you an idea that actually, yeah, if you're not on board, get on board. Joe and Jelly are fantastic. Let's Go Zero. It's not a massive workload at all. In fact, it's a streamlined different things. It's got my staff talking. I'm hoping that we're going to get over that. We're going to get even higher on 90% on the school dinner. So we're looking at a way of just renaming things. That's just been a big thing, rather than calling it what it is, giving it that almost superfluous name that children go, oh, I want to try that, something new, something a bit different. But I'm happy to talk to people about anything that I've done there. If you want to find out a bit more that we've done, please get in touch with me. I'm happy to have a conversation on the phone or something. Was that all right, Joe? Is that enough? Is that okay?
Yes, brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for taking the time and sharing it. It's absolutely incredible what you're doing. And I love how you're removing the stigma as well around pre-loved uniform and making it exciting, like they're going into the wardrobe for the Lionel Richard wardrobe. Is absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, Richard. And if anyone does have any questions, please do pop them in the Q&A or chat box. If we run out of time, we'll try answer them via email. And I do know there's a carbon footprint involved in that, but it's our best way of getting back to you. Or give Richard a call. Yes. Just in interest of time, I'm going to go right on to our next presenter, who is Sam Luca, the Chief Operating Officer at Trinitas Academy Trust. So Sam, I will hand over to you. Oh, brilliant.
Thanks, Suzanne. I'm hoping that you can see my slides and hear me loud and clear. Thank you.
Perfect.
The testing went well. Richard, that was fascinating. I think it's so good to hear from head teachers and from trusts that are actually trying to do this work. And just to echo what you've said, meeting the guys from Let's Go Zero was a game changer. They've made things so simple for us. Money, resources, time is tight in every school. And so something that can actually make a meaningful difference. And who could believe this is actually free? You know, there's a charity and investors behind this. The DFE isn't paying for it. I was in shock when I found that out. And nevertheless, this network of advisors has cropped up across the country and is doing brilliant work. So I'll just take you through a few slides and try and do that nice and quickly to allow time for questions. So yeah, Trinitas, we're a multi-academy trust in Southeast London, London Borough of Bexley. We've got 7 schools, about 3,000 children. I'm actually from the central team, and I work with a group of the leaders there for finance, HR, operations, safeguarding and school improvement. And our approach was to assist our schools to appoint their climate leads and trying to make the job of working through these action plans and getting stuff done as easy as possible, in the knowledge that they are incredibly busy trying to juggle the life of a teacher or support staff in the schools, and so I felt that it was our duty to make it as simple as possible for them. And thank goodness along came our friends from Let's Go Zero. So what have we done? So we found them. We were introduced to a great team of advisors. We appointed a climate lead in each of the 7 schools. And we had, in our secondary school, we had, I think, 7 people put themselves forward. I was absolutely astounded, but because everyone is so busy, but it just showed the amount of commitment there to that. We came together and we've had a couple of meetings since the summer term on Teams, because again, it's difficult to get people from across 7 different places together. We have had moved forward with each school currently auditing their carbon using the documents that Oki and Jelly referred to earlier. There's a very easy spreadsheet to fill in where we've got the right people in the right place to look at that. All schools took part in the Climate Action Countdown back in June. They were able to select from a number of activities, from like really quick, simple things to more kind of involved projects. And there's a few slides that come up in a minute that show some of the stuff that we did. This was a way of bringing it to life, making sure that across the whole school, it's not just the principal and the climate lead, just doing paperwork, that this actually meant something. And children across the whole of our age range were involved in activities. We're going to be taking part on Switch Off Fortnight, which comes up next month. So that's one to look up. And there's a lot of kind of noise about that in the schools, because we've been talking about it since we came back from the summer holidays. We received a visit from our climate advisors to our main secondary school. They spent the whole day meeting with pupils, having meetings with key staff, as it says here, premises manager, IT managers, cleaning managers, catering managers. Everyone was really kind of, interested, and all those stakeholders, the cleaning catering managers were from external contractors, but they showed so much interest in being part of our overall mission. We've entered as many competitions as we can, because no one's got enough money. So we've been able to get hold of money to do stuff. In your school, your catering company, your cleaning company, your IT support company will easily give you £500. Just ask them. I'd be surprised if they said no. Those sorts of amounts of money can help you get projects kick-started. And then we've got on with the more specific projects that are part of our action plan. The Sustainable Futures programme that will be part of our tutor time in the secondary school. Rocket gardens that we do with Harrison Catering, where they donate the materials to grow different herbs and stuff that gets used by the children. And further development of our eco garden that you'll see a bit more of in the slides here. Across our schools, we have got LED lights in every school now, and they are obviously paying for themselves in terms of finance and the carbon cut that was calculated in. We've got solar PV panels on the roofs. 3 of the schools have now got air source heat pumps, which is sort of quite new to us, but it's replacing those gas boilers with the new technology. So that's been a big learning curve. And something that I'm really sort of excited about with the geek side of me is that there's a new district heating network being installed that runs past 2 of our schools, which is basically a massive water pipe that is going to be feeding the hot water from waste recovery from a waste recovery power station that's on the Thames here, right near our schools. So that burning of that waste that comes from all over London on barges will then result in hot water being fed directly into our schools, which is just amazing. So we're looking at ways to get on board with that. Just to flick through a few slides. So here's an example of some of the activities that went on back in June and July. And as I said, the schools are able to just pick and choose what worked for them. Some kind of like some of the stuff that went on. Cornerstone, our special SEN school, you can see there, they did a project on their mode of transport to school with their cycles and, those that walk and get the bus. They've also got their own gardening project on. I think they had donation from Asda. Again, they walked into Asda and said, please give us some stuff. And they gave it to them, which was great. Over at St Paul's, they had their climate action countdown assembly. Thankfully, Let's Go Zero were able to get people in our location, and that was delivered at all of our schools, which was brilliant. And you can see there the kids enjoying themselves. Over at Christchurch, I think that was the same day, and Jubilee, part of their project is the chicks, and absolutely, what better thing can you do in a primary school than have chicks and eggs? I didn't fancy any omelettes that week when I went there. We were Let's Go Zero and myself, my quote was featured in Positive News, which is a website that exists. I think the team were contacted by journalists, so that was good to see. Mentioned Count Your Carbon, which Richard's school's been doing as well. Nice, easy format. If it's going to be complicated or long, then our climate leads aren't going to have time to do it. So nice, easy format, and the support of your climate advisor to get those reports generated is going to be a no-brainer. And it's just some slides here of the sort of general information that we've been looking at in our own team. But you can look at these in your own time later on. We had a meeting of our premises team. We showed them the video here from Alex Green, who's in charge of Let's Go Zero. So a lot of quick wins from our premises teams, stuff, understanding about costs. We can't do anything about stuff until we understand it, can we? So it's understanding our heating timings. The heating in one of the schools was on all weekend because the guy just didn't know how to reset his timer. Little quick wins like that are probably all over the schools, all over the country. Some practical examples. We applied for funding from the Grow Back Greener project, which was something to do with the Mayor of London. We got £18,000 for Cool Schools, which was all about harvesting rainwater. You can see there volunteers from the North West Kent Countryside Project who put in these planters. They dug the pond that's created an eco area. We have these sud planters which harvest the rainwater off the roofs, which that's an early picture there, now fully planted up. The vertical planters aren't looking as healthy as that. We need to do some work on that. Over our other school, St Paul's, they've built this this harvesting greenhouse, which was quite good. And here's the volunteers digging the pond way back, and then a beautiful picture of the area that it's starting to become. And that's where we met with the climate advisors, with our students, to sort of talk about how things are going. There they are. There's Oki leading the discussion. We had sixth formers and year 9s and 10s all talking about what it means to them, why they've joined the gardening club, and what they want to develop further in this area. I won't sort of let the whole video play, but there's a little video that you should be able to see of the pond. We've got a dipping platform that's now been installed, and we'll have pupils from our 6 primary schools coming up doing pond dipping with the science department. And there's a new trowel that's been installed. You'll see the steps there in a sec, where there was just some empty space that no one ever used, where we've seen so many new species of butterflies and stuff coming along. And just down there you can see all the vegetables that they've been growing. And the final slide, this is our No Mow May that we did. This beautiful green area at the front of the school that nobody really used that well. And so we went for No Mow May, and we actually have not cut that grass since. And so it's become an amazing area. And the science teachers tell me that there's all sorts of things have grown there, and they're seeing all sorts of new habitat. So yeah, happy to, like Richard, happy to be contacted, happy to take any questions. But hopefully we've got across that, you know, the practical support from Let's Go Zero is there. Take it with both hands and make your life easier, and ultimately deliver on that goal that we've all got.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing, Sam. And it's
Thanks, Suzanne. I'll unshare my screen.
Yeah, brilliant. It's so great to hear how you're involving various volunteers and also local organizations and just asking for donations, because if you don't ask, you don't get, do you? So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so just on that, you know, when you take their £500, we'll tweet it and put it on social media, because these companies love that. It's, you know, they will have pots of money for that purpose. So yeah, don't ask, don't get.
Yeah, definitely. And I've worked with some sort of corporate organizations who have these pots, community pots, and they just sit there and they're not spent because they don't know how to communicate that they've got these pots. And so I definitely highly encourage all schools just to go knocking on Asda's door or Tesco's or whoever to say, hey, do you have a community pot you'd like to donate gardening equipment for our school or whatever? We are actually out of time. So what I'm going to do is encourage everybody to send us an email if you have any burning questions, and then we can send them on to Sam or Richard. I'll just pop our email in the chat just to remind everyone, but it's letsgozero@ashton.org. Just want to say a really, really big thank you to Sam and Richard to coming along and sharing all the amazing work you're doing. I really hope it's inspired others to get in touch, to contact your organizations, to get PTA volunteers involved, and getting the whole school community involved in taking action for the climate. But thank you as well, Oki and Jelly, for presenting on our new offer to schools. I really hope that some of you in the audience today will get in touch and shout out for some Climate Action Advisor support. But yeah, thank you, everybody, and I will leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Bye.